Throughout my life, I've tackled big goals through a few Herculean efforts. Whether it was a school assignment or a work presentation, everything was done in just a few intense days, often right before the deadline. On one hand, this built up my confidence in my ability to quickly produce a huge amount of work by putting in insane hours and maintaining really intense concentration. But on the other hand, as I got older, I started dreading ambitious goals and projects more and more because I knew from experience that pursuing them, at least the way I always have gone about it, always left me broken. I'd end up massively sleep deprived, stressed out, high on sugar and other unhealthy stuff, and unable to function properly for like a good week afterward. And with each new goal, each new sprint, mustering the willpower to get into this high productivity mode became harder and harder because I could viscerally feel the upcoming price that I would pay for it. Surprisingly, working in small steps was never something that was taught to me, not in school, not in university, not even at work. I actually worked in management consulting where getting data last minute from a client in the evening and having to produce like a whole analysis overnight wasn't that uncommon. So that probably reinforced this habit of mine. And I should also mention that there are plenty of areas in life where the Herculean effort approach simply does not work. Skincare, language learning, exercising, these aren't things I can accomplish by just working really hard for 2 days. So for the most part, I just didn't make much progress in areas like these, even though I made very sporadic attempts at changes that actually never stuck. And I'm sharing this because I think some of you, obviously not all of you, but some of you will recognize yourself in my story. And since my story finally took a turn for the better, yay, which is what this video is all about, I really wanted to help you too if you're struggling with the same issues by sharing how I made those changes. So at the beginning of last year, I told my friends that I was so tired and disappointed with myself for starting a ton of projects and not following through with them. It's incredibly demotivating, these false starts. They're affecting my perception of my self-efficacy. I don't feel in control of my own life. And German is a perfect example. I took my first class in German, don't laugh, in 2002. And in 2024, I was still at the A2, B1 level. Not that I was studying for 20 years consistently, but I had dozens upon dozens of starts that led nowhere. So for me, German was like an obvious area to start with. And I told myself that I would take B1, like the B1 exam in German by the end of that year, 2024. And I would do that not by taking an intensive course or finding the perfect teacher or textbook or doing my homework perfectly, all the ways in which I approached things before, at least for 2 weeks that I stuck with things each time. Instead, I would do the easiest, simplest thing I could do every single day. Just show up for one class every working day. So I signed up for Lingoda. It's an online language school, so I wouldn't even need to commute anywhere. And last December, I actually did pass the B1 exam. And I really didn't study that much at all during the year, I have to say. I just did a tiny bit of, class consistently, and that's all. And I cannot express how powerful that experience was in reinforcing the feeling in my brain and my body that if I did a small effort on most days of the week, I could achieve really ambitious goals without any restrictions, any pain, or procrastination. You probably don't know this about me, but I work in cognitive science, and the two topics that I specialize in are how we learn and how we self-regulate our behavior. And you might find it funny that someone who is an expert in self-regulation fails so much at it, but actually I studied this field first of all exactly because I was struggling with it. And even after you know all the research, there's still such a huge gap between knowing something and actually be able to use it to change your behavior. And if you're skeptical, just think about obesity, smoking. Even in life or death situations, knowledge alone does not translate into long-term behavior change. But knowledge isn't useless. It gives us something to think about as we try to negotiate better behavior with ourselves. And so I wanted to share with you 4 motivational benefits that we know from psychology and cognitive science about the incremental work approach, the small steps. So first of all, yes, ambitious goals can actually boost our initial motivation. They present us like a rewarding target to strive for. But this excitement can very quickly turn into overwhelm if this goal is too unattainable, too distant. When goals are too large or too vague, they create a psychological barrier that makes persisting difficult due to this like perceived enormity of the task ahead. And in my case with German, for the longest time, I had this vague goal in my head, like get fluent so I can teach in German. And whenever I considered it, my mind went into overdrive about finding the best teacher, the best program, making time to study perfectly and doing my homework perfectly, because this big goal demanded big steps. And last year, when I gave up, which sounds negative, but ironically, it was the best thing for my perfectionist self. So when I gave up this huge goal and just thought, okay, if for the past 4 years, I just took a single class and never did anything else outside, if I've done this for the past 4 years, I'd be way ahead now. So I did just that. And seriously, my B1 scores, which were nearly perfect, aside from writing, which I never practiced, but like they were nearly perfect. They speak for themselves. Second is that feeling of self-efficacy I was referring to earlier. Small steps create these frequent milestones that we are able to reach, and this provides us a tangible proof of progress. And according to the progress principle, these small wins are critical because they increase our emotional and professional satisfaction. And this is like a feedback loop that reinforces our motivation. Third is flexibility. When pursuing a goal through smaller steps, there's more opportunities to receive feedback and make adjustments. And if something does not work, we can change it up without feeling like that we are abandoning the whole goal. That's exactly what I'm experiencing right now. This year, my new slow goal is exercise. I'll share more about how it's going at the end of this video, but regarding flexibility, I've been learning a ton about muscle gain and fat burn as I kept exercising and noting down actually how my body composition was changing on my Withing scale. The past me might have tried to learn and understand everything about nutrition, about exercise, even before starting and actually never starting. But now, as I am learning as I go, I feel that this experimentation actually boosts my motivation day to day because I keep trying different approaches. I keep observing what's happening. I kept reading more about it, and I actually want to keep experimenting. Fourth is sustained motivation through habit formation. Small steps can transform effortful actions into habits, and as behavior becomes automatic, then the mental effort that is required to do them decreases. While sporadic efforts that I used to do will never become a habit, they will always be extra effortful. And I think both German and exercising are now such integral parts of my day that I even stopped asking myself whether I should do them or not. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you like sort of look for excuses why you shouldn't be doing a particular thing. Are you too tired? Are you too busy? This never happens to me anymore. Like the question isn't there. The behavior is habitual. That's just what I do. I wake up, have my coffee, exercise. I finish work, and then I have a class scheduled at 3 and I take my class. And that took the effort out of those attempts. The effort that was there for decades. So I mentioned that one of my goals last year was slow German. There was actually something else. After years of cozying up at home during the pandemic, I was increasingly feeling like I was drowning in things in my own home. And this made every move super complex, made maintaining all that stuff difficult, made me feel unpleasantly rooted in one location. I no longer had this lightness I had before, that the feeling that I could just pack up and go live anywhere in the world. Not that everyone needs that feeling, but I personally really enjoy it. So last year, I decided to declutter our entire home, not just by dumping everything, in plastic bags and donating it or recycling, but really meticulously listing everything I didn't need on Facebook Marketplace and selling over 150 items. And it took a ton of effort and many, many months. And I still have over 50 items listed. But I managed to collect over 4,000 euros. And most importantly, I really rethought my relationship with things and shopping throughout all this effort. And I have to be honest, some days I really just wanted to take my 30-kilo box of books and dump them at some library. And I even tried to do it at one point, but no library in my city would accept books. They say they have so many donations that they don't have space to shelve them all. So I kept selling them one by one instead, repeating to myself like a mantra that since I spent 15 years collecting all those books and all that stuff, it's only natural that fixing this situation would also take a very, very long time, and I should remain patient. And my home is in a much better shape right now, and I keep selling things consistently, and I refrain from new purchases. And again, this experience really reinforced the feeling that if I work on something little by little, I can make a big change happen. And this year, I have something else on my agenda. I have never exercised consistently in my life. I actually felt miserable when exercising. And of course, being the perfectionist who I used to be, or maybe still am, but I used to do everything in one go. All my previous attempts at exercising involved doing a 1-hour program, being completely out of breath, out of energy, collapsing on the couch and trying again for a few days. Then I would just give up. This year, I started exercising on January 1st, and I've been doing small 15 to 30 minute workouts, depending on the time and energy I have, for the past 45 days. I've only missed one single day, and that is because I was traveling. And this is by far the longest I've ever exercised in my life. It's just so consistent. And again, the most amazing thing is that with the smallest of effort, what feels like the smallest of effort, I start to see how my body is reshaping. I can do more push-ups. I feel more strength. I feel that it's easier for me to hold my back straight when I'm working. My legs look much more like they did pre-pandemic. I am absolutely thrilled. And all that without any crazy sacrifice or pain, without any sacrifice at all, actually. So what I'm trying to say is that all my life, I thought that to achieve great results, I needed to suffer, that greatness must come at a price of pain. No pain, no gain, they say, right? But now I feel, and not cognitively because I read it somewhere, but viscerally. I feel it viscerally because I experienced it, and now the conviction is not in my head, but in my gut. I feel that I've been going about it in a totally wrong way. No gain if you feel pain. We humans are only able to push through pain and great discomfort occasionally. The key to winning at anything in life is simply consistency. And consistency isn't painful at all. It cannot be, because otherwise it will not happen. So what we should be asking ourselves is not, how can I push through this super uncomfortable behavior? And instead say, how can I make this behavior comfortable so there is no need to push through it? Now, it all sounds like I just came full circle to BG folks' tiny habits approach. And the silly thing is, I read this book years ago. But somehow, even though the approach was laid out there for me, it didn't stick, because I think I didn't see the big picture in teaching, and I'm a teacher. We say that it's equally important not only what the student learns, but what they unlearn in your class. And that's what I was missing. I had to unlearn pushing through pain behavior. If my story resonates with you, think of one area in your life where you'd like to achieve something, and try the slow goal approach this year by making tiny, painless progress most days of the year. And you've probably had so many false starts before, like I did, so another attempt, even if it fails, it won't cost you that much. We've had those before, right? So just try and trust the process. Treat it as an experiment. You have nothing to lose, and just ask yourself, what if I do the bare minimum very consistently? Where will it take me? And maybe you'll be surprised.